Hey, this is Math Minutes Pro. Today we're going to talk about how to simplify this radical expression. It's going to be quite a few steps, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, here we have the square root of 27 times a squared times b all over 5. This square root symbol applies to everything in this rational expression, but we refer to this complete thing as a radical expression. So the first thing we're going to want to do is to apply the square root symbol to everything in this expression. So let's go ahead and rewrite that. We're going to rewrite it as square root of 27 times the square root of a to the second power times square root of b and everything over square root of 5. So that's how we apply the radical symbol to that rational expression. Now, what we want to do is see if we can find some perfect squares. A perfect square is a case where we can take the square root of a number and get another number. Like 25 is a perfect square because the square root of 25 is 5. 49 is a perfect square because the square root of 49 is 7. So I see that we have square root of 27 here, and their factors of 27 are 3 and 9. 3 times 9 is 27. 9 is a perfect square. So I'm going to rewrite 27 where I can have a perfect square. This is not a perfect square. Square root of 5, square root of b is not a perfect square, but square root of a squared is, because the square root of a squared is a. So I got a perfect square right here. So let's go ahead and rewrite this. I'm going to rewrite it as the square root of 3 times the square root of 9, there it is, times square root of a squared times square root of b all over square root of 5. All right, so I see that I have a perfect square here and a perfect square here. Square root of 9 and square root of a squared. So let's go ahead as our next step and go ahead and simplify that. So the square root of 9 is 3, so I'm going to write 3 first. The square root of a squared is a, so I'm going to write a. And then I'll go ahead and bring times square root of 3 and I'm going to bring the b under the same radical. We got a square root of 3 and a square root of b. We can rewrite that as the square root of 3 times b, and that leaves me with over square root of 5. Okay, looking pretty good. Now, this is not simplified right here because we have a square root number in the denominator. So we need to get rid of that. The way you do that is you multiply the square root of 5 times the numerator and the denominator to get rid of that. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to multiply this by square root of 5 over square root of 5. We're not changing the value because the square root of 5 over square root of 5 is actually 1. Okay, so we're really multiplying this by 1, but it's going to help us to get rid of the square root of 5 in the denominator. So I need more space. I'm going to bring that next step up here, and I'm going to rewrite this as 3 times a times square root of 3 times b over square root of 5. And I'm going to multiply this by the square root of 5, right, over square root of 5. Okay, now, when I multiply this, I'm going to multiply numerator times numerator over denominator times denominator. So the next step we're going to get is we're going to keep the 3 times a because that's on the outside. And I'm going to bring the 3 times b times 5 under the same radical symbol. So I'm going to write that as 3 times 5 times b over square root of 5 times 5. That came from here. Square root of 5 times square root of 5 can be written as this way, okay? Now you look and think and see, well, what can I do? I can simplify 3 times 5 and make that 15, and I can make that square root of 25. So let's do that. 3 times a over 15 times b, square root of 15 times b, over square root of 25. All right. And actually, I don't even have to write that. I'm just going to write square root of 15 times b without the dot. All right. Now we look and think, what can I simplify? Again, this is the name of the game. Every time you write a step, you think. You look and think. You make a conjecture. So I can simplify this right here because that becomes 5. The square root of 25 is equal to 5. So let's do that. All right. So I'll make that because I think that's going to be our final step. So we have 3 times a times square root of 15. Square root of 15 times b all over, and the square root of 25 is 5. Okay, so let's look and see. There's nothing to simplify here. There's nothing to simplify in the square root of 15. That's not a perfect square. So this is our final answer. I think I'll circle it with a different color. This is our final answer. We have 3 times a times the square root of 15 times b over 5. And this is our final answer. So, thank you for watching. And remember, math is life, and life is math.